Welcome back to the Late Night Show with Casey the OT. We have an exciting topic today. We will be exploring occupational therapist's role in amputee rehabilitation. And now, here's your host, Casey the OT.
Hello everyone. Welcome back to the Late Night Show with Casey the OT. Tonight, we have a very exciting show for you guys. Our topic is, what is an occupational therapist's role in amputee rehabilitation? For our first segment, we will be defining occupational therapy. So, let's go live from the streets of DC Boulevard.
Occupational therapy has a long history in the U.S. dating back as far as 1917. But in today's society, do people really know what occupational therapy is? Or what occupational therapists do? And what their role is in amputee rehabilitation? Well, we wanted to explore this topic, so we sent a camera crew to talk to kids in the streets of DC Boulevard.
What's an occupation?
Isn't that a kind of octopus? Isn't that like an occupied person?
Occupational therapy. I think it's one of those, like, PTs, I think. Is that what it is?
Where you help someone do something?
So, I think occupational therapy is, like, when people, like, help you find, like, an occupation, because it's, like, literally it says occupation in the word occupational therapy. Or it's like when you're like when you don't know what your job it is and you're like getting like really stressed, like you.
What is an occupational therapist?
I don't even know what that means. Occupational what?
Occupational therapy is... Can I go next?
What do you think is occupational therapy?
Play.
Playing?
Do you know what occupational therapists do?
The occupate?
Is it a therapist? Is it a therapist that studies occupational things?
Okay, Alexa, what do you think occupational therapists do?
They give kids shots or something.
Do you know what an amputation is?
Taking a piece of your body off if it's damaged.
And
an amputation is when they cut off one of your limbs.
Tell me what you think an amputation is.
I think it's some kind of blood.
Isn't it when they cut off people's head? Or like decapitate?
Amputation is I know what an ant is. What's a tation? Invitation? I doubt that.
so what do you think an occupational therapist would do with a person who got an amputation?
I don't know.
Give them fake body parts. Give them an artificial leg.
If the person got an amputation on their leg, then make a robot leg.
Now that we have defined what occupational therapy is for you, on a more serious note, we have two guests from the Dominican College Hospital of Blavel. They specialize in amputee rehabilitation. Please welcome Stacy and Carissa. So, why are OTs important in amputee rehab?
OTs have the skills necessary to recognize the complexity of this condition using a holistic approach. This emphasizes the client's perspectives, roles, and activities that they find meaningful, and their personal experiences and values in order to develop an individualized intervention plan.
Now that we understand what OTs do, let's take a sneak peek inside the Rehabilitation Center for Amputees at DCH.
Our philosophy is to let the patient be our guide. We utilize a client-centered approach to create a treatment plan to meet the specific needs and goals of our patient.
Each patient receives treatment from a multidisciplinary rehab team that work together towards the patient goals, encourages the patient's family to participate in the rehab process through frequent visits, patient-family conferences, and moral support.
We as OTs evaluate the ADL and adaptive equipment for the needs of our patient. We also evaluate the patient's cognitive status and can set up a cognitive remediation program for them. Our OT staff addresses any physical impairments, functional limitations, and provide optimal individualized exercise plans for them.
Tonight, we have a very special guest joining us. Please give a warm welcome to Carl!
This is Carl. He sustained an upper limb amputation during an automobile accident. He will be explaining the interventions he received during the 3 phases of prosthetic rehabilitation from the occupational therapist at DCH. Here is his story.
Hi, my name is Carl. I was involved in a motor vehicle accident, and my specific case involves a shoulder disarticulation, which includes a loss of arm and hand functioning. I've been at DCH through every step of my journey so far, and my 2 occupational therapists, Carissa and Stacy, were a huge part of my rehab and have been with me through everything. Following my surgery, I experienced phantom limb, which is the sensation of limb that is no longer there, and my OT was able to assure me that this was normal.
We begin with an evaluation and developed a client-centered intervention plan for Carl. We provided wound care, addressed range of motion, began desensitization techniques to address his phantom limb pain, facilitated edema control, and provided psychological support. All of these were necessary for comfortable and optimal prosthetic use and function.
Before I received my prosthetic, my OT worked with me on some exercises to improve my strength so I could carry out activities such as feeding or dressing. My OT also gave me adaptive equipment.
The pre-prosthetic phase is what prepares Carl for prosthetic use, which include scar and soft tissue management, residual limb shaping, muscle training, and developing strength and endurance. We introduce exercise for general conditioning as well as exercises specific to changes in posture due to his limb loss. During this phase, interventions will focus more fully on the skills needed to accomplish the activities that are most important to the client and to achieve the client's goals. These goals often begin with basic daily living tasks such as feeding and dressing. During this time, adaptive equipment is also introduced.
When I received my prosthetic arm, my OT and I determined a wearing schedule, how to put it on and off, as well as basic care and maintenance. My OT also continued to work with me to develop new skills accustomed to wearing my prosthetic.
In this phase, we address skills such as donning and doffing prostheses, determining a wear schedule, skin hygiene, and basic care and maintenance of the prosthetic components and accessories. After the client has mastered these initial activities, he begins to use the prosthesis. Some new tasks are introduced to learn how to manipulate objects of various sizes, shapes, weights with the prosthesis to facilitate grasp, decrease compensatory movements, and engage in activities of daily living.
My OT also suggested that I meet with somebody who had gone through a similar experience with me, which really helped me cope through this transition process.
Throughout the rehab process, OTs provide support to help the clients cope with the devastating psychological effects of an upper limb amputation.
We assist the client in integrating the prosthesis into more advanced activities such as childcare, home maintenance, work activities, driving, sports, and hobbies to develop a greater independence. We also perform home evaluations and assess adaptive equipment options. The discharge planning occurs through the entire process. We provide the client with education and resources to engage in self-care, vocational, and leisure activities.
Alright, well that concludes yet another episode of The Late Late Night Show with Casey the OT. Join us next week for a special episode of OT vs PT. What's the difference? See you then! Bye.